Let's move on to our last questioner, Mayor Michael Nutter.
Thanks, Larry. Good evening.
Good evening.
First, I'd like to have more of a lightning round experience with you. And again, most of my questions will be in the area of judgment and decision-making and thought process. Okay? So the School District of Philadelphia, somewhere in the last week, 10 days, actually sued the city, which seems rather unreal, if not dysfunctional, but I'm going to put that to the side. It's regarding Bill 210685AA, the Special Certification of Inspection Bill. You co-sponsored that bill. If you're mayor, you'll actually be the defendant in that suit. How will you defend the city against the school district regarding a bill that you co-sponsored and voted for?
Yeah, so to be clear, I will also have a new school board, and I will be making sure that our school board is working in concert with the city. That bill related to whether schools could open after tremendous renovations had been done.
Ms. Kim?
Yeah.
I don't want to go through the history of the bill. It's a specific question about your actions as mayor involving a bill that you sponsored, and now you're on the other side of the table of a lawsuit.
I'm trying to explain that, Mr. Mayor, because I think the context does matter, actually. So the School District of Philadelphia has also come under fire for the opening of dangerous schools that had, including asbestos, open asbestos lines, the prevalence of lead that actually poisoned a child, an elementary school child in the Northeast.
I got it.
And mold that has sent children to, to the emergency room in hospitals, including a teacher who is now suffering from a bizarre form of only asbestos-related cancer. I felt like the school district had failed, and I made it clear that our city is going to do what is necessary to enforce the safety and well-being so that every family, every parent knows that, and every educator and school staff know that when they walk into a building, this city is going to look out for them. We are not going to tolerate the poisoning and the destruction of people's lives in the name of, a bunch of whatever that they were suing over. And I also think that lawsuit is going to be resolved. I do not think it's healthy or safe for the district to be standing on the position that it is.
Okay. You voted against Bill 180888, commonly known as the Pharma Bill. In retrospect, do you think it was a mistake for you to vote against that bill when you potentially have either an actual or an appearance of conflict of interest, given that your husband at the time worked for AmerisourceBergen, which is one of the largest drug distributors in the country, recently settled a $6.1 billion settlement with the
Thank you for telling me my husband's job. I know what his job is.
Let me finish the question. That's between the two of you. Given the massive nature of the opioid crisis across the country, and especially here in Philadelphia,
Yes.
should you have voted in that matter, or should you have abstained?
Okay. So to be clear, only 5 people out of 17 voted for that bill.
I'm asking
12
about
out of
you.
17 did not support that bill, including none of the mayoral candidates who are on council at the time. That bill was deeply flawed, and I think that there was ample evidence that it,
My question was about actual or perceived conflict of interest, given your special relationship with the pharmaceutical industry. That's the question.
So I understand, and as I said, I stand by that vote as it was, because I think, it was very clear. No, it did not have support from a vast majority, a supermajority of council.
I understand. Okay. All right. The question was about recusal, but in an op-ed a few years ago, you said, as a charter school founder myself, believe there is a discrete and limited role for charters within a vibrant public school system. Yet in many instances, you have actively proclaimed opposition to charter schools all across the city, and in some instances in Black and brown communities. Yet you are a charter school founder, but in many instances in the city, you run opposed to charters, notwithstanding your earlier support or statement of support in an op-ed that you wrote. Are you for charters or against charters?
So I am very clear that as mayor, my job is to be the mayor for every child in every school system, public, private, parochial, and charter. The charter world has changed dramatically over 30 years. I've been part of that conversation over a period of 30 years, and it has evolved over time. And as you would have seen in the time period when, under your administration, 30 public schools were shut down, and in return, charter schools at the same amount were expanded dramatically to replace those public schools.
Because the students left those schools, and the buildings were in terrible shape, and the kids weren't getting a great education. And the school district was in financial crisis during the Great Recession. That's why those schools closed.
For clarity, I'm referring to the schools that you actually took as public and then converted directly over to charter. That's not the same thing.
You mean what the superintendent did? You mean what the superintendent did? I supported his actions, but let's be, if you want to be technical about it, right?
I am being
technical. At the time, we had a SRC.
Yes, we're being
not the Board of Education that we have
So
today.
I have been very clear that yes, I oppose those types of practices. In fact, I worked with one of my colleagues on City Council that proved that parents did not want to see that conversion when, under your school system, they were forced into a vote and to a horrible kind of situation where they were literally told they would get no funding or support if they remained public, but they would get all these resources if they went charter. I thought that was a warped conversation, and I felt like it was an important time for us to have a counterbalance, because fundamentally, people can say as much as they want, the mayor is directly responsible for the schools under district control. Those are the ones that I need to see in better shape than they ever were before. If there's any kind of critique of me or anything about me, I think that they would say that I'm one of the district's harshest critics. I have held that system to account for the failures that it has done in not appropriately educating young people and forcing them to seek literally any other option, many of which are very poor, because those schools are not in shape. As mayor, I am determined to make sure that our public schools come back to vitality and vibrancy, and that they are a deserving alternative in that choice landscape.
And I think we also know that many of those schools, whether they were district schools or not, or parents seeking a different experience for their children, I'm only questioning the seeming potential contradiction in that you started a charter school, but then in many instances in Black and brown communities, you've been opposed to those charter schools. Where do those parents' voices get to be? They left the public school system. They didn't move to Kansas. They left the school system, walked past the neighborhood school, and went to another school.
Yep. So
I'm just trying to understand the distinction here of starting your own, but being opposed to others.
So, Mr. Mayor, here's what I would say, is that I probably wouldn't be on this stage if not for the decisions that occurred under your administration. We are very different people. No, I'm just saying we are very different people. And I always knew that when I came in and saw, my children suffered the consequences of not having nurses and counselors in their schools. My children suffered the consequences of seeing, parents that I was very close to suffered the consequences of seeing schools closed down in Black and brown neighborhoods, by the way, in public elementary schools, where there were whole swaths of the city that were now educational deserts. So if you moved in there, you had no place to send your child to kindergarten. And I told myself, if I had the chance to be in a different position, I would show myself to be a different kind of leader. The fact that we see each other and we see things in vastly different lights, we are just in total disagreement. I would not be the same kind of leader who had done what I had witnessed at the time. And to be clear again, These are not, one day say one thing, another day say another. This was over 25 years of seeing a system evolve. The school that I started was in 2005. The system that I am fighting for, a city that I'm fighting for right now in 2023 and for 2033 and beyond, is for everybody to have the kind of quality system that every child and every parent in this city deserves. And frankly, our city will not grow because of it. So I don't want to get too lost in this conversation about where things are going to be. This public school system needs to grow. I hope that if I'm held accountable for anything at the end of 4 years, it will be, have I helped grow the Philadelphia public school system? Because over the last 10 years of disinvestment in our city and the failure to actually renovate buildings, give our kids basic education, Lower Merion is building a $140 million middle school for its 12-year-olds, okay? And our kids are playing on broken asphalt for playgrounds, and they go to schools that aren't even air-conditioned, and 30 schools out of 216 were open for summer last year, and that cannot continue. So this is the thing that we're gonna try and turn around.
Well, I appreciate all that. I'm very familiar with Lower Merion. I would just mention to you, you keep talking about the disinvestment. In the 08 to about 12 period of time, we saw the largest recurring investment in public education in modern times. While the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, under Tom Corbett, was cutting funding for education, I raised taxes 4 times for the school district, including during the election year in 2011, and convinced City Council that we did need to invest. It's also why we had our graduation rate for high school students go from 53% to 68% when I left. I'm just saying, all is not lost. It is not a horrible place, and some children actually graduated and went on to college. So, down to the last. You said this. You've got to have somebody when, as soon as they walk into the room, systems of oppression fall and new systems of opportunity are built. This is you. When I walk into the room, systems of oppression fall and new systems of opportunity come up, and everybody in this room knows it. I guess I just have to say, I literally never heard Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, Mother Teresa, or Mahatma Gandhi ever say anything like that. But I guess I just want to ask, is that what happened when you walked into the Union League? Did the systems of oppression fall? Is that what happened? What does that mean?
I think it means that I'm probably the biggest threat to the status quo of the old politics of old. And I think that people who feel threatened by it represent a type of politics that I'm trying to get away from. Like, we have to ask ourselves as a city, we have been ruled by an old, antiquated form of politics that have left us far too comfortable for far too long. And I am trying to turn that around. I'm obviously not taking credit and saying that I'm gonna, do all this stuff. But yeah, is that my attitude when I come into a room?
You
Absolutely fucking lutely. Oh. I am trying to stop terrible things from happening to people.
I understand.
And I am trying in its space. I literally said, systems of opportunity come up. Is that a threat to anybody here?
No.
Because if it is, we're in the wrong room. This is not the Philadelphia
I was trying to understand that everything just falls when you walk in. These are your words.
That's not.
It's an interesting statement.
I think it is an attitude that I have. I did not come in here to hold and become a bench warmer. I'm not here after 4 terms on city council or whatever, multiple years of being a career elected. I came here to show people that we do not have to live like this, that we can actually fix the things that hold us back, and the biggest thing that holds us back is us. It's not actually all these forces that are out there. It's the failure to get in and talk to communities, to tell and build a needs-based budget, to recognize that, no, I don't have enough money to fix everything in the world. But you know what I do have? I have a great idea, and I can leverage money. If I can show you that we can topple an eviction system, you and everybody else will want to make that possible, because a roof over somebody's head is literally the first step to stability and opportunity. And I will do that for education, and I'm gonna do that for job opportunities, and I'm gonna do that for our mental health and well-being, to bring our kids back to freaking life. And I'm gonna do that to bring this city into the modern era and stop giving us the same tired solutions that hold people back all the time.
All right. Thank you all.